Hey there, welcome back. Now in this lecture, let us extract information for a particular object. That means we have multiple objects in our database right now. So if I want to access this first object or maybe I want to access this second object, I need to create a specific URL. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a view for it. So I'm going to call it as movie_detail. And I'm going to accept the request, and here I also need to accept PK, that is my primary key. So I'm going to accept this PK. Now what I'm going to do is if I'm going to access the first object, I'm going to pass PK as 1. If I'm going to access second object, I'm going to pass PK as 2. So this way we can extract information for a particular object. If I jump here, now in our query set, I'm going to call it as movie, and I need to fetch the object, but this time I'm not going to get all the object, but I'm going to get specific object where my primary key is equals to this PK. Now here we have something inside this movie. Let me try to print here. So the first thing I'm going to do is jump onto my browser and access 1. I'm going to get an error at this point of time because I don't have any URL. Jump here, jump onto my urls.py for my app. So let me minimize this one, close this one, and this is my app. Here I'm going to add a path inside which the first thing I need to do is I need to mention my URL for my specific primary key. So that means if there is any integer, I'm going to refer this as PK. I'm going to refer this to movie detail. So I need to import it as movie_detail. And I'm going to use it here. And the name I'm going to provide is movie-detail. Let me save this one. Jump back here, and if I try to access this page again I'm going to get an error because I'm not returning anything here. So let me refresh this one. Let's see what error we are doing. Okay, it's movie details. Yeah, we receive an error regarding our HTTP response, but the main aim is to understand what we are going to get in the form of our print statement. So here if you look, I'm going to get the name. So that means if I visit this first object, I'm going to get the name of my first object. But I have several other information. Maybe I have about section, maybe I have some boolean value. How to get that? The major thing is I got this name because of my str object where I'm returning self.name. But if I need to access each object individually, what I'm going to do is if I need name, I'm going to use .name. Maybe if I need anything else, I'm going to use .that anything else. So suppose I need to create a dictionary myself. What I'm going to do is, again I'm going to return a JSON response. I'm going to call this as data. And instead of printing here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a data dictionary. And inside this I'm going to create individual objects. That means I'm going to call this as name, and this is going to be referred as movie name. Then I'm going to create another object in which I'm going to take description, and this is going to refer towards movie description. Then I'm going to create third object which was our active, and here I'm going to fetch the value of active. So that means I created a dictionary myself, manual dictionary. So first we got our return in the form of query set. Now in our query set, I know I'm going to get information about one object only because I'm passing a PK. Now through this one object, I'm going to fetch the name, the description, and about the active information manually and store them in dictionary elements, that is my key and value pair. Once this dictionary is prepared, I'm going to return a JSON response. Let me save this one, visit here, try to refresh. Okay, I need to restart my server, scroll down a bit, Control C. Okay, this is working fine now. Now here, if I zoom a bit, you can see I'm going to get a response in the form of JSON. The best way to realize this is our quotations as well as the value of Boolean. So I got a response. If I try to access value for 2, I got JavaScript the face and value of 1. This is our current movie name. I hope you got the idea what we are trying to do. But think about this for each individual element. It's going to be too complicated if I try to use everything manually. That's why we have a framework called Django REST framework to minimize all these tasks. Now suppose this is the one process where we are trying to get the information in the form of retrieve. But if you understand any type of website, we perform 4 methods, which is CRUD, C refers to create, then we have retrieve, then we have update, then we have delete. Now if I try to do everything for every single method, it is going to take a lot of time. Also, the chances of me doing mistake manually for all these tasks will be increased. So that's why we have a framework called as Django REST framework. Now if you are working with any other language, every single language has some option to create REST APIs. In Django, we have Django REST framework. Now you don't need to do anything else. All we need to do is install Django REST framework, which we will do a bit later. There are a few other concepts that I need to talk about in Django REST framework. That is about serialization, how we are going to write views, because we now have class-based views, we have function-based views, and then how to access API. This is one method. We have this browser, we are trying to access this API directly by clicking on this link. But how we are going to access these type of API? Maybe a third-party application or maybe some browsable API. So what we are going to do is, in the next lecture we'll be talking about this. The main motive of this section was to understand how to create an API response directly with Django. At this point of time, we haven't touched Django REST framework, but we have created JSON response which can be utilized by any application. Now the problem with this is, if I need to accept a form request, I need to get JSON from the application. Maybe I have a mobile application from front end. I need to get JSON. I need to select individual values and then I need to store them in my database, which is going to be considered as too much of manual work. For this, we are going to talk about serialization. So I hope this quick section was helpful to understand the basics of Django again and also about this response. In the next lecture, let us talk about Django REST framework and start our journey with our real project. I hope this lecture was helpful. Thank you for following and I see you guys in the next one.